So, hello once again. I'm Lisa Rice. I am with Safal Partners with the Center of Excellence that is focused on registered apprenticeship, system alignment, and strategic partnerships. Yeah, don't try to repeat it, it's just too much. But we are thrilled to be able to be a part of these webinars and the 30 Minutes of Excellence that we are hosting with NAWDP, which is wonderful because they are such a great partner with us and they help us out in so many ways. And hopefully, quite a few of you were on the 30 Minutes of Excellence and got to hear Brent. And he had a person with him at the time, Aubrey. Aubrey's unable to be here with us today, so you may hear a little bit more from me on this side, but I'm pretty sure that Brent is going to really help us out and talk to us from the industry perspective about what can we be doing to get these employers engaging with us in registered apprenticeship. It can be kind of tricky. We all know that, right? So this is meant to be very interactive. We love questions. We always love questions. So please go ahead and pop them in the chat. If you don't want to put a question out there to everybody, please feel free to put the question directly to me. I will not reveal who said it. I will work it out so that it is very nicely generic for everybody to be able to learn from. And that is the way we learn from these things, is when we have folks who interact with us and share things that you've done, really well too. And then also share with us, where you're kind of feeling the pain on all of this. So with all of that, I am going to turn this over to one of our partners in the center, which is Brent Wheel, and he is with WIA, Wireless Infrastructure Association. Did I get that right? I always mess up the last thing, I think. So there, Infrastructure Association, I had it right. Woo, woo, woo.
Absolutely.
And
100%.
and so Brent is going to take us into this. And again, please put your questions in the chat. And Brent, take it away. And you can poke me whenever you need a little, like sideshow going on. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, Lisa, and I'm really delighted to be part of this group. Really admire NAWDP and the value of the public workforce system. I have experience myself in the public workforce system in the U.S. Department of Labor and Employment and Training Administration, and can say without a doubt that I have always said to employers that the public workforce system is really the best kept secret that's out there. I'd say registered apprenticeship is one of those best kept secrets. And some of the things that I think we've seen are that really working effectively to help employers and to help employers really engage successfully and really buy into registered apprenticeship is really to look at how we can work together, how we can really focus in on the language of business and being able to do that, and equally work to help make sure that we, as for example, apprenticeship sponsors and intermediaries, are really doing everything we can to work in concert with the workforce system in a way that can work hand in hand that way. I think that's one of the reasons the Center of Excellence was created and shows such promise, and really excited to be here today. And for sure, I know from previous webinars and from the 30 minutes that I did have earlier just last month that there's nobody will be shy about asking questions or putting things forward, and that's how we learn. And so I appreciate that. Just a note that Dave is having some trouble logging in. So okay. If somebody could maybe reach out there, that would be great. What we today, what we're going to focus in on in really how we can really speak in the language of business and engage employers really effectively and let them see that value of registered apprenticeship. First of all, I'm going to make a little bit of a plug for the telecommunications industry and kind of help speak a little bit about what is all involved. Dave's on. There we go. Thanks, Dave. what's involved in the telecommunications industry is, and that's also a really, probably enigma wrapped in a riddle sometimes for people, is exactly what is telecom? What are these jobs? Is a workforce and economic driver? How can we really make that business case for registered apprenticeship? Look at some tips and best practices, and some innovations that can be there for the workforce system. I say an employer case study. Actually, I'm going to ask Dave to chime in periodically about really his experience as a leading employer that's really taken on apprenticeship and made it work that way, and get there. So do look forward to having a really engaged conversation with all of you, and with Dave and Lisa on really how we can make this work. As Lisa did note, unfortunately, Audrey Tice, who really is a true subject matter expert in the area of registered apprenticeship and workforce development, she unfortunately is not able to be here today, but we do have Dave Hall, as Vice President of Safety and Training at VELEX. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Brett. Happy to be here.
And as we start talking about telecommunications, Dave, would love for you to really explain a little bit about VELEX, what you've been able to accomplish, and then your experience is really invaluable as we really consider how we can best engage. So just a little bit about WIA. We are an industry association. We're based in Arlington, Virginia, and we represent really the architecture of what makes wireless communications work. So that's everything from the companies that we think of that have their names on the phone and that we use to dial in, and as well as infrastructure companies that put that together. There are professional service firms, there's manufacturers that are all associated with this industry that we're in. And we are not only a unique forum for the nation's wireless infrastructure, but really have been able to take on increasing role as a workforce development, as a way to support our members and support the whole industry, because while historically we've really been that kind of industry association based in Washington, D.C., what we've been responding to has been, for the last several years, really before I think many organizations really were thinking this way, about realizing that workforce development is the biggest challenge they have, meaning finding and keeping the skilled workers that they have. And so WIA has been a force then in making those kinds of solutions. But actually, before we jump in, I thought we might get some feedback from you on your experience working with employers on when it comes to registered apprenticeship. And we all should have a reactions button. And so I ask you, it could be a big smiley face. I know there's frowns in there and crying, thumbs up. I would love to get Lisa, so I like yours, of give an opportunity for you to kind of share some of your experiences so far in working with employers, especially around apprenticeship.
And so Jackie, you may need to be able to put it so we can see all of the participants as they pop up their emojis for us too. I'm seeing some crying emojis coming in. Yeah, quite a few that are crying.
Well, we're gonna try to help smooth the waters a little bit as it comes to that. One of the things one of the questions that we have is really, what do we even mean by telecommunications? So the telecommunications industry directly employs about 659,000 people. And actually, the latest statistics as of last month are the unemployment rate in our industry is 1%. So we're definitely facing a recruitment challenge when it comes to that. And there's a whole series of occupations associated with infrastructure. That's the installation of infrastructure. And that's really, I think, where Velex is really there. Equipment installation and repair. There's engineers, there's customer service. And one of the things that we find is that there's really a lot of crossover, especially when it comes to competencies within our industry of many cases, there's elements of IT, there's large elements of construction, cybersecurity, are all, and even retail, that are all really significant elements there that do tie into the kinds of occupations and careers that we do have. Dave, with that, you want to talk for a little bit about, tell us about Velex and your role there, and the size of your company as some example for people about really our industry and what it's all about.
Yeah, sure, no problem. First off, thanks for having me here today. Obviously, this is something that's near and dear to all of us with workforce and the shortages that we're all facing within this industry. And the one thing that we have been able and very successful with Velex, we're a telecommunications construction company. We're a turf vendor. We employ roughly 800 tower climbers at this time that are currently out on the field doing construction related activities nationwide. We've taken on a very large role. We're pretty much spread out across the entire United States in every major market doing some type of work or contract related services for line and antenna. We're a full turnkey provider for the industry, from everything from site acquisition all the way through integration. So we have a very broad workforce internally as well as externally with GC Partners. So for us with the tie wrap piece, as Brendan talked to, we're one of the largest providers for tie wrap with what we've taken on. And this process has been a very tedious getting off the ground. It took us a while to get our legs under us, but once we did, we were able to get this rolling, and we put, I think, roughly 400 plus apprentices into the program over the last couple of years now. So it's been challenging. We've had our own challenges at times that we cannot not look back on and see, and hopefully I can help steer you guys through some of those. But definitely it's something that we're looking at what we need and to continue moving forward.
I appreciate that, Dave. And your idea of what's been tedious, I think you're selling yourself short, because you've done a remarkable job as a company of really taking it on, understanding what was going to be involved in registered apprenticeship, took your time and worked it with a few, and got it started. And then once you saw the value, really went up there. And so, like you said, you've quickly become our largest apprenticeship sponsor. So this is not, we're not going to focus on just on telecommunications, but just to give an idea of, so we were at 690,000 workers. And that number may or may not change directly, but there's a big change that's underway right now. We've all heard about 5G. You can't escape without it, but thinking about what it means, and really it's transforming not only our industry, but it's transforming our country. So when it comes to what this kind of means in the workforce system, A, it does mean jobs today. B, it means, with 1% unemployment, there's absolutely jobs today. There are careers and opportunities, and we've been really building out apprenticeship as a solution for that. It's also, however, future jobs within telecommunications, just as examples of the change that happens, meaning that not even so much in the cell towers you see there, but much more of it is involved in installing small cells, in building installations, things that are really changing the mix of the kinds of jobs that are needed. And so that's something that's really going to be coming in, that's coming. And even beyond that, where it really can be of interest as well to workforce agencies and economic development agencies, is that the changes in how we work and how we go to school and how we manage our how we manage our transportation network, how we handle crops and what's going to happen with self-driving vehicles is all part of that 5G revolution that's changing things. That's projected to create 4.6 million jobs in everything from agriculture to transportation, smart cities, our electrical network, manufacturing, and really part and parcel of what's happening with Internet of Things. So all things to really keep in mind. The other things about WIA that we're really proud of, first of all, we have focused on creating content for the industry through our Telecommunications Education Center, and more than 35 courses focused on everything from basic about wireless into specific job functions, information about 5G. And we launched a program called the 5G Readiness Program that bundles together up to 80 hours of this curriculum into a certificate that's out there. And we've been able to partner very substantially with state agencies, especially with Ohio's Office of Workforce Transformation, in a way that then has where they've been able to support that program, bring that into universities and to take things along. So let's go now into registered apprenticeship. First of all, it started in thinking about what's the business case for apprenticeship. It really started within us as an industry organization in how we were going to really tackle the workforce needs of the telecommunications industry. So after convening and working with a large number of groups that actually had come together and had been decided on registered apprenticeship in 2017, WIA became the national sponsor of the Telecommunications Industry Registered Apprenticeship Program. We are the national sponsor. And there are 13 occupations, and we've now have 71 employer sponsors that are part of this, and we have national program standards that have been approved by the U.S. Department of Labor. In addition, WIA is the industry intermediary for recognized by the Office of Apprenticeship for the telecommunications industry, and so we've had a chance to be able to take things broadly. These are our 13 occupations, and actually just this week we were gained approval for our 13th, which is the telecommunications utilities foreman occupation. Our start was in technicians, especially in tower technicians, and actually that's where we have most of our apprentices. However, with the changing face of our industry and those needs that were underway, we actually are in position now to be expanding, look to really expand those occupations dramatically. And we have great interest in doing so in project management, in engineering roles, in site development roles, some of those other ones that Dave, I'm going to go after you for, and we're going to keep building up in that in ways that do make a difference for you then.
And Brent, we actually have a question that might be really good right now because you were just talking about your national standards and your program there. And one of the questions is, what kind of qualifications do people need to get into that apprenticeship program? That we have a person who they're going to be doing basic C-Tech curriculum, and they're wondering kind of, is that going to work, or does it need to be something else? So there you go. That's a good one for you.
Absolutely. So the TIRAP apprenticeships, for example, the technician level apprenticeships are really designed for people to be able to come in and grow within it. We have pre-apprenticeship partners that have been able to do support, especially for areas where they come in with basic safety, OSHA 10, for example, and other kinds of basic qualifications are a great entry point in. However, beyond that, there's not a post-secondary education requirement for people to be able to enter in as apprentices. Dave, you want to speak to your experience there at Vellex?
Sure. The biggest thing for us, right? I think one of the gaps that we find that is the biggest disqualifier is not having a high school or diploma or a GED, right? In order for them to get into the program and be enrolled through the through the rapid system, they have to have a high school diploma or a GED. That would be the biggest thing that we ran into as far as a disqualifier. But otherwise, most of the people that we bring in and put into this program succeed very well. I know there was another question that brought up about time and contractors that companies felt that they didn't have the time to put into it. I would say if they're bringing on new people in any way, they're going to be training them, and most of the skill sets and the requirements within the program of TIRAP are the basic skill sets that they would be training these individuals on anyway. When you look at how this program set up and how it's structured, from it was part of the contractors and a work group through the TIRAP program here that got together, and us as contractors helped develop what that path would look like and build it so that any company of any size could really follow that and make sure that they could maintain the integrity of the program.
So we really do look at TIRAP as being offering many entry points into telecommunications, being able then to take them on and to be able to grow them. And we've really focused on that, and we have a priority for people in underserved and underrepresented populations to be able to bring in, actually through our intermediary role as an industry intermediary. We have a goal of 50% of our new apprentices to be from underrepresented populations. So our role as an intermediary then, we play sort of a unique role because we represent the industry directly as an association. We also are an industry intermediary and do work to support not just our members, really everybody within the telecommunications industry to be able to grow and to have that come in there. We then take on that role of helping to accelerate people into creating a program. We have been able to put forward a lot of technical assistance and have a team now through our contract, through a grant that we have with the U.S. Department of Labor, and really streamline how things work. David is very sophisticated, so he spoke about rapids already and what that can mean. I'm sure you all know that it's probably not, it doesn't slip off the tongue of an employer that you're talking to typically around those pieces. And, that's the way it should be. We should be there as intermediaries. And really, I think the workforce system is very well placed to be that as well, to really help walk people through the program, help them understand that, help them provide the kinds of assistance that can be there. And Velex is a perfect example of a company that really was able to take that on and really see where that was. And now over time have become incredibly sophisticated about working through it. But I think we still are able to offer technical support that takes some of the, that makes that, eases some of those pieces that are there. Dave, anything about a high school diploma from another country? I see that was a question here as well.
So for us, we've used some out of Puerto Rico. I've not used any from any other country outside of Puerto Rico, but we have had some that way that were approved and accepted. But I have not tried anything from a different country.
That's great, and I can see what I'm not sure that the standards themselves address that, but anything that's there, we can make sure to kind of push that forward. So I know you all know this, but it bears remembering exactly what we mean by registered apprenticeship and how that's different. And, one of the things is even just the terminology apprenticeship itself can be, could be a question there. And there's a lot of misconceptions about what it means. And there are a lot of unregistered programs too. We are a registered program. We actually have a competency-based apprenticeship program. It does mean when we work with employers and kind of walk through, you are going to pay them. They are your employees. And then what we really say is, and I think Dave, you spoke to this, people are already doing 90% of this already. They are already doing on-the-job training, and our industry is one that is, has a number of certifications that are associated, especially people working at heights, for example. That people are learning there. So on-the-job learning and related instruction that come together, that's there. One of the things that I think is often overlooked is the importance of mentorship in making it work effectively. and that it does lead to a credential. In our case, the biggest credential that we do offer is that portable credential through the through a register, through the certificate that they get through from WIA for and TIRAP for the.
And then Brent, real quick, just on the mentorship, that's kind of was the stickling point with a lot of the contractors and GCs we've spoken with, right? And for ourselves as well. But when you look at it, most companies already have select foremen, select people that they will put new hires with, they'll put new employees with, and expecting them to train. So they've already, most companies, most cases have already identified who those mentors would be. And it's not really any additional work with those mentors. Compared to what they're already asking them to do by training a new employee. So, most people see that and see that piece as a hurdle, but it's actually not. They're already doing it if they're hiring new hires. So
that's a great point. Now, I will say about this information is it's a must-have information. On the other hand, this is what it's not is this is not in what's in it for me for an employer viewpoint, right? So some of the things that we really point to as what's in it for me are, first of all, TIRAP actually came about because of the need for safety and quality in the workforce. That was the initial driving force for why telecommunications companies came together around a solution and chose Registered Apprenticeship Program. Industry really works off of standards, but haven't really had a standard for education and training that ensures that people, are really working at quality and being safe in how they're doing it. As a result of that, we really do want to point to how much more quickly people can become productive on the job. It's true, a lot of this training is out there. However, and Dave, I wonder in your experience if this is true. Actually, I'm pretty sure it is because we filmed employees that said they've been in other places and it may not have been true that, yeah, there was training that was there, but it wasn't all put together in a way that they could see what was expected of them from start to finish, that trainers, that trainers that were within the company to provide that training, or people who were supervising that at a work site, that it may not have been really spelled out in a way that everybody knew exactly when and how that was going to be offered, that are kind of missed opportunities to really bring people along really quickly. This is what you need to know. This is why you need to know it and become more productive that way.
Yeah, absolutely, Brent. So, you were talking, part of this program was, and part of what TIRAP offers to the employers is a roadmap of what that training looks like, what kind of that pathway to stepping stones into things like OSHA 10, which they already require for the industry, NWSA TTT1, your bloodborne pathogens, first aid, all those kind of initial trainings and things that they need anyway are all factored into part of what that training roadmap looks like for the employee. So as the employers are doing their due diligence and training their employees before placing them on the sites, they're also at the same time already working parts of this program and much more than what they really probably realize they are doing. So it will make it an easy transition. And for smaller contractors that may not have a formal training program in place, this roadmap actually gives them that training plan to make them successful and help them ramp as we continue to grow this industry.
That's really well put. The other thing that we hear over and over again is that the cost of turnover, and it's retention is a significant in our industry, and the cost of somebody leaving is really high. So if we can show that there's a reduction in that turnover rate, that really justifies, the for an employer, really, why would we be doing this? That alone is, can be a huge benefit that's there. And then certain, and these are national figures about registered apprenticeship overall that the Department of Labor has really documented, is that 94% retention rate for for employees who complete an apprenticeship is a really huge number, especially because it's a really good response to if I invest in the training and they leave, what happens? So actually the evidence really shows the more you invest in your workers, it doesn't mean, oh, they're going to jump ship the first second they can. You realize that you've invested in them, and especially with that mentorship piece and a career development plan that's there, that they recognize that they're more likely to stay then when that has happened. There is more flexibility than people give note for. Yes, Lisa.
Sorry, Brent. I was just going to say that actually that that whole, ability to make sure that you're keeping your people is just enhanced so much with apprenticeship because there's a loyalty bond that is created because you're investing in them as the employer, but you're also, your workers around are passing on the knowledge that they have. And that's huge because it takes years to gather knowledge. I would think, David, you would agree with this in some format that you've been able to see even others who aren't necessarily their specific mentor sharing knowledge with that
Absolutely.
apprentice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will also speak to the retention piece for us. Our true tower apprentices that have been coming into this program, our retention rate is 2/3 lower than normal retention on experienced workers that we're hiring. Getting them in, getting them through this program, showing them what that pathway looks and giving them that pathway into that tech 3, into that foreman position, and showing these guys, laying out that groundwork and then using this as building blocks for them has been instrumental in retention for those employees.
Yeah. And I think it bears repeating. You said 2/3 lower than those that you are hiring with experience.
That's correct.
So it's the folks with experience who are like, I'll jump for another buck an hour
That's
or
right.
whatever. It's those who you're building your own talent pipeline. And employers don't like to necessarily always think about that, right? Building their own talent pipeline. But when you can talk to them about, hey, this actually is going to give you better retention,
Yeah.
ding, that's
It
money.
it's also a huge piece for us with our veterans, right? When our veteran retention and when we're pulling veterans into the industry, they're used to having that structure and this much in time and grade, this much to build on into the next step. And this lays that path work for them. So we're finding that with our veterans that we're hiring, it is truly instrumental in retention with them.
I love that. Yes. Sorry, Brent, had to
No.
toss that in.
So this is some thoughts overall about apprenticeship. I did want to share, and actually I'm definitely going to cite Audrey for really putting together some really strong thoughts about from a workforce perspective, then how we can really capitalize on then this insight that of kind of the employer mentality and what they're looking for to really think through and further really how registered apprenticeship becomes part of that employer offering that we're putting together. And I'm sure you've all experienced this, that we know everybody's coming with talent needs. That's why they're engaged with you in the workforce system. The pieces that kind of will make that work then are a supportive environment that employer is really able to provide, and in partnership with the workforce system then in really helping candidates to be able to enter into an apprenticeship and grow in there, and strong partners that very much are in place within the ecosystem of the workforce system to make that work. We know everybody's got talent needs, but not everybody's going to make an ideal partner with the workforce system. If they were, they'd all have registered apprenticeship and be like Dave and show up here on our, kind of best case examples of this. The key is really how are we really providing a total approach as we work with employers in a consultative way that really identifies, okay, exactly what your talent needs are. How can we provide the right kind of partnership that's there and put in place the right kind of environment in which you as an employer are going to be able to nurture employees, in which we're going to be able to really nurture the kind of relationship that you need. And so kind of that's kind of like a theoretical approach overall about where things are going. Well, so how do you then provide that ideal case there? And there are several ways that are, they're, I think, tried and true, but on the other hand, always worth kind of reminding ourselves as we are there, because it is so easy to, and I say this myself because I'm in a industry association, but we manage an apprenticeship program. So it's so easy to jump into apprentice speak, for example, and really recognizing that we got to, kind of take a step back from that and really think about what a true partnership is going to mean in a win-win partnership with an employer. So one is, and this is where, where you all fit in. And actually, I really want some of your feedback, and Lisa too, on this as well, because around building a program that will meet the regional employer need and even national employers, when it comes down to locations, often can seem like small companies there in your region. So the ability to be able to use your labor market information and to be able to point to and have your finger on what that local market what your market really looks like is critical. Definitely helping kind of work through beyond a transactional level and working with an employer to really thinking about something that is more systemic, looking at when you talk to an employer, it's not just about the placements that you have today, but really making them feel like they're a trusted partner, like you are a trusted partner, and vice versa. And certainly we have seen sector strategies be really effective. I have seen it in my career across a number of different industries. And I just want to make a shout out for this right now, because we are finding that telecommunications does not yet have a ton of sector strategies and in many regions that we've been in. And if you haven't done it so far, I'm going to want to make a case for that, not only for the labor market information that's out there, but because of the changes going on right now in the industry with broadband infrastructure being so important, with billions of dollars in federal investment heading to the states very soon out of the infrastructure bill that's going specifically for broadband expansion, that would want to make a real case for sector strategies in your areas that are focused on telecommunications and broadband and ways to be able to support that. I think you'd have examples from us and information from us on that labor market information, on competencies and career paths that I think if now's the time really that we'd love to help really consider how that happens. Lisa, where I was going to ask for maybe some other thoughts on this would be helping to kind of think through on our standpoint. We have a national program. And actually, the very early days of TIREP, they considered there was at least one state registration that was made. Mm-hmm. And it was, they quickly realized that because we're national in scope, we have very similar competencies across the country. We are national companies, that managing state by state by state was was something they were looking to avoid. And so we really were able to come through with national standards that we really look. And Dave, I'm pretty sure a company is going to look to say training is going to be, our training needs are the same whether they're working in Texas or whether they're working in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I mean, across the industry, right? If you're working tower related activities, your training needs are the same. If you're working small cell, it's the same. Fiber optics, it's the same, right? Regardless of what state you're in, it's all national standards that apply. So yeah, that's a very true statement, Brent.
And I would jump in with other industries and say that that's often very true with a lot of different industries. If you're talking IT, there's certain things that, all IT businesses, service providers are looking for in their workforce. Are they going to want to tweak it a little? Yes, they are.
Absolutely.
That's the other beauty about having, if you have a national standards in this, then you can, kind of play with some of
Very true.
those program pieces and pull one piece in that's going to work better for your local employer there.
Very
Um,
true.
and being able to find some of those national standard programs that you can tap into at the local level, I think is one of the, another one of those best kept secrets kind of thing. But anybody who's, I hope a lot of you would raise your hand right now, explored apprenticeship.gov, you can find those things. You can find where is the, a national standard in an aviation program or in a IT program or whatever it may be. It can really help you kind of guide an employer to say, why don't we look into joining into this national program that's here. So, and then using the intermediaries, I'm gonna give another shout out because I do not think in the workforce system we have thought enough about working with intermediaries such as WIA. There's a whole lot of others that are out there. And when we are able to do that, when we use an intermediary, they help us with our businesses. They help us pitch it to our businesses. So this whole thing, we're always so worried about how do I pitch this thing? Well, you get an intermediary and you let them help pitch it, right?
Very true. Well, Lisa, I'll give you a shout back and speak to Safal Partners as well as an important intermediary as well in that.
Thank you. Yes, we are on a different contract, different thing. We are an intermediary as well. So there you go.
Uh, a couple of other things that to think about with registered apprenticeship, and I don't think it pays to harp on, oh, the surveys show, apprenticeship isn't really deep into the, embedded necessarily within things. It is worth recognizing, though, that there's a whole toolkit you got at your disposal to really work with business. And if nothing else, we think that there's a real case to be made for apprenticeship to be an important part of that overall offering you have and support that's there. I think there is growing recognition about apprenticeship. Sometimes people will say, I hear I'm really interested in apprenticeship, but I'm not quite sure what it is. And that's your opening really to really probe more. But for sure, businesses and I think sometimes if a business comes in a certain door, they may end up in one of these in one of these hexagons here. And sometimes it takes, you kind of take a step back a little bit, listening to employer to realize, they maybe came to me saying, we're really interested in we're interested in work-based learning, or we're interested in connecting, or we're interested in connecting with the workforce board, or that it's just worth remembering that there's a whole suite of offerings that are out there that like I said, the workforce system is, the often this best kept secret, or people have thought about it in one way, and the chance for them to really think about it in a really cohesive way can often pay incredible dividends, even if you've started with a transactional job fair, or to get started on apprenticeship, or whatever the case may be, or to connect to a particular common worker training program, for example, that being able to make that bigger connection can often lead to really lasting partnership. So really, would stress that.
And Brent, if you don't mind, if you could go back to that slide again, I'm going to also promote one other thing that I don't think, and those who don't know me, I am a prior workforce board CEO. I've done it all from hand out the job order referrals to run the board and everything else in between. So it's not just like I'm like playing over here and trying to hit at the workforce system when I've never been in it. I've been in it. So one of the things that I think that our workforce system needs to make a better connection for our employers with are the CTE programs, the pre-apprenticeships that lead right into those apprenticeships, those registered apprenticeships. And if your CTEs in your area are not doing apprenticeship yet, but they want to know about how do we do that, please drop me a little, just do a little quick message to me, DM, in here, and I can make sure that you will get two things that are coming out of the Center of Excellence. One, we will be having a toolkit that will come out that will help CTEs understand how to create these things. And number two, we will be doing some webinars on this as well, with workforce boards understanding how they can work together with CTE, and CTE understanding how do we create this. So if you're interested in that side, I just wanted to put that little plug in there so that we get you. I always like when I can tell people, hey, this is something that's coming up, and we can make sure that we've got them on board. All right.
Yeah, that's a great point. Dave, on that point, I know you've done some exploration of pre-apprenticeship and interest in particular in an underrepresented population that I think would be of great interest to this group. Did you want to share?
Yeah, so I was just at an event this week, two different events in Florida here, where we met with some technical schools, technical high schools, right? And then we also met with a trade school yesterday with one of the colleges in a technical program there. So talking through this, a couple of things that came to mind that we had a lot of discussion about was the CTE piece and continuing credits, right? Some of this they've already earned credits for, or already earning college credits as high schoolers, and they're coming out going, "Hey, I want to be able to, don't want to go to school full time, but I want to be able to get into the workforce. I want to be able to, I don't have the money to pay my tuition, so I want to work and go to school." And this has been a great segue for us with recruiting efforts,
Yeah.
pulling those. Not everybody's going to college out of high school, so pulling in that new blood, getting them into the mix. Those right now are actually some of my best apprentices I have. They're truly engaged.
Yeah.
They're learning skills as they go. They're paying their way through college. And within their first year completing this program, they're walking away with 14 college credit hours, which more or less knocks off a semester of electives that they don't have to worry about. So,
Yeah.
it's huge piece, a huge benefit.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said all of that, Dave. That was awesome.
So I did want to give a note to you recognizing that there are expanded occupational targets. This is, I think if a company does come to you and that don't pigeonhole them necessarily as it's just going to be for skilled trades, for example, or the registered apprenticeship is only for skilled trades. It's a chance to reach beyond that, explore non-traditional occupations, professional occupations that are out there. Most of the apprenticeship right now within telecommunications that we have within TIRAP does fall in with technicians. Now, that does not mean that it is not a real pathway into other careers. As a matter of fact, we have a success story. He's going to be actually speaking at the Department of Labor in Washington here next week, who completed he completed his tower technician apprenticeship, and actually then went on to complete a lead and foreman technician, but then lead and foreman within telecommunications in the line work, but then went on into the business area and is now assistant operations manager for the company. So all these things are true in it, and whether you're considering for people within telecommunications or anything else, it's always worth really listening in where their pain points are, encourage them to consider there are already occupations out there in hospitality management programs, in project management, in engineering that are always kind of worth there. And so, definitely think about expanding that and really broadening that base. The fourth is really taking a look at how this, and really thinking through, again, just beyond the transactional level, what exactly is this this business partner really looking to accomplish? And let's be as creative as we can about bringing that employer into a win-win scenario that really can fit within an ecosystem that's going to be supportive of their needs. For sure, it's going to provide that support for WEO participants, for for dislocated workers, and help you meet your numbers. But the key thing is that it's really that we're looking for those models that are going to provide that win for an employer that's going to be a lasting partner, and really would encourage that we really look at it that way, look to support the customer, in this case as the employer, and how we can really meet that need. A registered apprenticeship is an important part of the tool chest. And the other thing I would say about registered apprenticeship that makes it that way is, for an employer, there's other things that are really can be very attractive about apprenticeship. For example, there are we know that there's lots of different ways that people can get training dollars to support, for example. However, oftentimes registered apprenticeship can really be a fast track to being able to access those kinds of funds. We know, for example, that there may be real interest in veterans, and there's a chance, and actually I think Valex is a great example of companies that have been able to kind of make use of that in ways that then support veterans to be able to come in. And so registered apprenticeship can unlock a lot of those doors that make for success, but it's not something to push as a model for everybody. Just as when we're talking to one of our members or anybody within the industry that's really looking for solutions, that it's not just about talking to them about this solution that we have for you. It's really listening, understanding, and really looking to create that kind of win-win that's there. So definitely would encourage kind of thinking along those ways. We have some resources here. I promise we'll share this information. I think if we get it, that it can go out to everybody, so you don't have to try to take a screenshot or try to type in these really long resources there. But we definitely have some resources as well as contact information. And but I think we have a few more minutes, so we definitely welcome people's thoughts, questions that are out there. Lisa, your insight is always going to be important.
So I have actually, I'm going to go back to a question that was asked right towards the beginning, and it's that age-old question of, how do I get an employer to say, okay, I'll take the time to work on this application to help put it together. What's the trick? I mean, we talked about, yeah, you get a return on the investment and you get all of that, but is there any magical words that they can use? Is there a magic wand they can wave or something?
I'll point to a couple, and I welcome other thoughts too. One is that it's true, and it's true, and I mean, then I'd even go one further. There are people that will sign on, and then just then it's really hard then to take the next step of, okay, let's identify mentors, let's identify apprentices, let's get your process in place. It's time to register register apprentices. A couple things that I would say is, one is that, first of all, we have been able to invest in a support team that does a phenomenal job of really listening and walking through the steps, taking on, making it clear they're going to answer whatever questions that are out there, have a regular meeting to hold people accountable, and the things we're going to do. Okay, this time we're going to focus in on your job descriptions and competency, and your training, and we're going to map that against it, and let's see where there's anything there. And then next time we're going to focus in on the employer agreement, what's in it, and those pieces that are there. So that's incredibly helpful in having that single point of contact that's working with the company, and kind of get that core team that's there. A couple other things that are really critical. So one is that everybody here is super smart and engaged. I'd like to think I might be too. I am not an employer, and so having an employer talk about what it's meant, it's easy. We can say, there's actually it's not, there's not so much paperwork or, pieces like that. It's easy to say that, but, people will, we have, and now that we have 71 employers on, we have some people that can provide that peer example that can make a big difference that way. A
Yeah.
third is that it can sometimes mean really working to identify not just who's going to implement this, but you got to find a champion in the company. I think we talked about this during our 30 minutes of excellence, the importance of a champion. Valex has at least two, maybe more. Dave, of course, is has been a huge champion within it, but somebody who's going to take that on, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a VP. It doesn't have to be. You need to have the C-suite involved. You need to have HR, and you need to have that buy-in. But finding that champion who's going to really work then across within to really walk through it, walk through the steps. It does involve bringing in HR. It does involve some training that's there. It does involve operations and making that work. And so that's those are some of my thoughts that would be there. Dave, does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you're going to have a champion to drive things, right? And yeah, I would say I may be that champion in driving it, but without a doubt, it's my coordinator that is pushing the behind the scenes. The support that we have from TIRAP with this, with Rachel and her teams and the pathways, and we have the monthly calls with them that helps facilitate everything and make sure that data transfer and the entry into Rapids and all that is taking place smoothly. Don't sell yourself short in what TIRAP brings to it in the WIA piece. The support that we have from you guys is what helps to make that so much easier. Their guidance, their direction, it's not like we're on our own and have to find a way through the systems. There's a pathway and a resource that we can reach out to that will help facilitate that and help guide us. So, that's a huge piece of why we've been so successful is it is truly a partnership with WIA in this piece to make it successful. So I think, there was some questions about incentives and incentive things that are out there, funding availability. That's going to be a challenge for any of us, right? Because it goes back to that training piece and the cost of bringing on new employees. But as you expand in this business, as you hire on, that's an operational cost that every contractor or every company is going to face. And how much you're going to expand or what you're going to put into it. I would say, again, there's not really is there a financial piece or a huge financial piece to putting the apprenticeship in place? Actually, there's not. You've got someone that you'd identify as a champion. You've got someone already on your staff that's training and mentoring your employees as they come on. That's already a part of that falls into that mentorship role. You've already, in most cases, have a coordinator or someone, a secretary or somebody that's helping, administrative assistant, helping to facilitate the onboarding or an HR function. That this could be an added piece that really is not that time consuming. You're talking a couple hours a week, depending on how many people you're putting in a program. It's a little more for us because the numbers that we put in, but for smaller employers that think this may not be a right fit for them, it's actually very little that they have to do. It's maybe an hour out of their week. And, that's usually someone that's wanting to have that benefit or add that piece in. That's not that much of a cost.
Right. That's right. All right, folks, we are at the top of the hour again already. I am always amazed when the hour goes by so fast, and I just truly appreciate everybody being here. You asked some wonderful questions for us. As usual, this recording will be available at the NAWDP YouTube channel. So you can go and just Google on YouTube, hey, NAWDP, and you'll find all of these lovely little webinars, and the 30 minutes of excellence and everything are also all posted there. So we're just thrilled that you're here with us. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us. You have all of our contact information now. We're here to try to help you if you have a question in any way, shape, or form, and look for more information coming on trainings for all of you on registered apprenticeship from the Center of Excellence. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.